के अस्सलाम वालेकुम। जेन ऑस्टन नावलिस्ट स्टार्ट किए हैं हमने, इनके 4 नावल जो हैं वो कंप्लीट कवर कर लिए हैं। आज 5th नावल है नॉर्थहैंगर एबे। इम्पॉर्टेंट नावल है। 6 जो इनके नावल हैं, 6 नावल इनके काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट हैं जेन ऑस्टन के, जो कि हम कंप्लीट कवर करेंगे। बाकी जो हैं वो इंशाल्लाह देख लेंगे, अगर वो करने हुए तो कर लेंगे। आप कमेंट्स में बता दीजिएगा अगर इन 6 के अलावा आपको कोई किसी और की भी कैरेक्टर लिस्ट या फिर समरी वगैरह चाहिए हुई। ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट टुडेज वीडियो। कैथरीन मॉरलैंड, द प्रोटैगनिस्ट ऑफ नॉर्थहैंगर एबे। Catherine is a 17-year-old and has spent all her life in her family's modest home in the rural area of Fullerton. While Catherine has read many novels, particularly Gothic novels, she is very inexperienced at reading people. Her narrate about the world and about the motivations and character of the people she meets is an endless source of confusion and frustration for her. Next है, nonetheless, Catherine is very intelligent, learns from her mistakes and can be witty. Her strongest attribute are her integrity and caring nature. Henry Tilney. Henry Tilney is a 26-year-old person in a small village called Woodstone. He is intelligent, well-tempered, and attuned to the motivations and behaviors of those around him. He is very well read and enjoys novels as much as history books. He is good-natured but has a cynical view of human behavior. He is often amused at the folly of others, but he takes care to gently instruct them properly if possible, particularly in the case of naive Catherine. Eleanor Tilney. Henry's younger sister, Eleanor, is a shy, quiet young woman. She shares an interest in reading with her brother, but for the most part, her reserve prevents her from having many friends. Like her brothers, Eleanor is often subject to the somewhat tyrannical behavior of her father, General Tilney. The domineering father of Henry, Eleanor, and Captain Tilney. He is a widower like several characters in the novel, such as Mrs. Allen. The general is very concerned with material things. He takes great pride in his home, Northanger Abbey, which he has refurbished himself. He is preoccupied with both earning money and spending it. He enjoys eating a large dinner and having the best of everything, and he wants his children to marry wealthy people. He has a gruff nature which makes some, such as Catherine Morland, think poorly of him. Isabella Thorpe, one of Mrs. Thorpe's 3 daughters and the sister of John Thorpe. She is Catherine's best friend for the first half of the novel. Isabella is attractive and very spirited, but like her mother, she is a gossip and often concerned with superficial things. She enjoys flirting with many young men, which bothers the more reserved Catherine. Ultimately, Isabella's nature causes her to lose both James and her other boyfriend, Frederick Tilney. John Thorpe, the brother of Isabella. He is conceited, arrogant, and given to boasting and exaggeration. He talks endlessly and rarely listens. Like his sister, John is given to superficiality. John tries to woo Catherine, but his arrogance quickly turns her against him. James Morland, the brother of Catherine and a fellow student of John Thorpe at Oxford University. James is mild-mannered and very caring like his sister. James fell for Isabel Thorpe and becomes engaged to her, but breaks off the engagement when she begins a flirtation with Frederick Tilney. Captain Frederick Tilney, often referred to simply as Captain Tilney, is the oldest sibling in the Tilney family. Unlike his brother Henry or his sister Eleanor, Frederick is a flirt and given to mischief. Austen suggests that Frederick is the Tilney child, closest in character to General Tilney, by identifying both men by their ranks rather than by their names. Frederick flirts with Isabella Thorpe and leads her to break off her engagement with James Morland, then abandons her in Bath. Mr. and Mrs. Allen. The couple that visit Catherine to go to Bath the couple that invites Catherine to go to Bath with them. Like Catherine's family, the Allens live in the rural town of Fullerton. They are older and wealthier than the Morlands, but they are childless and they see Catherine as a kind of surrogate daughter. Mr. Allen is a practical man who spends most of his time in Bath playing cards. Mrs. Allen is greatly concerned with fashion and spends her time either shopping, knitting, or talking to Mrs. Thorpe. Mrs. Thorpe is the widowed mother of Isabella and of two other daughters. Like her daughter, she is concerned primarily with gossip, fashion, and money. In conversation with her friend Mrs. Allen, Mrs. Thorpe talks mostly about her pride in her children. Mrs. Allen has no children, while Mrs. Allen talks about her gowns. Mrs. Thorpe is not nearly as wealthier as the Allens. Mr. and Mrs. Morland and family. The family, which includes Catherine and James, is from the rural town of Fullerton. We visit the Morlands and only briefly at the beginning and end of the novel. Mr. and Mrs. Morland are relatively simple, practical folk, especially compared to people like Mrs. Thorpe and General Tilney. Both James and Catherine must get the approval of their parents before they can marry their prospective spouses. सबसे कम करैक्टर इस नावल के थे, इसीलिए एक ही वीडियो में सारे कवर कर दिए हैं। कल इसकी समरी करेंगे, अगर वो भी इसी तरह छोटी हुई तो एक ही पार्ट में हो जाएगी। ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज़, स्टे ट्यून एंड सब्सक्राइब माय चैनल।